Hello and welcome to another summer video requested by my subscribers. So I'm really grateful that so many of you have requested this video because it's made me think really deeply, and I think I've come up with some really great strategies for you about what to do to prepare for your A-level. So in these bullet points are what I think you should cover. And I'm going to try and get you just to think about one particular text, the first text that you're going to study. And then as I talk you through that, you'll be inspired, I hope, to do this with your other texts, not necessarily in the summer, but while you are studying. And my prediction is you'll be able to get yourself to the very top grades by the end of your first year of study. So here we go. You need to understand the context in which the text was written. So I'm going to show you ways to do that, but there's nothing wrong with getting hold of the actual biography of an author, because that will give you the context of the author's own life and of the society at the time that they were writing. Well, you can obviously do that in abbreviated form by buying study guides or going on Wikipedia or just searching the internet and finding autobiographical information. That's a really easy way to do it. But I'd also recommend buying some second-hand books, and get some biography of the authors that you're reading, because knowing the context of the time and the life of the author is going to allow you to come up with really interesting interpretations. And the one consistent thing about A-level, no matter what board you're doing, is that if you're offering different interpretations, you're going to score really high marks. If you just chuck in some context and chuck in some details about the author's life that isn't specifically linked to how you interpret something, you get no marks whatsoever. So it's going to be really useful to understand this stuff fully so that it embeds and informs your interpretations of the text. So I'd definitely start there. On the other hand, you might think, well, I'd rather read the text first before I do that. That's up to you. You definitely need to read the text, become expert in that text just by reading it. Now, let's imagine you're studying a Shakespeare text. Should you watch the videos? I'd say with a Shakespeare text, yes, definitely, because it really will help with the unfamiliarity of language. Read the text first so you have an idea of what's going on. You could read the plot first in summary. There's any number of ways you could do that. You can do it online, you can get a revision guide, whatever. So it will help to understand the story first, but then read the text as it's written. That's going to be hard, and just expect it to be hard. You're just trying to immerse yourself in the rhythms of the language. Now, when you watch the videos, you desperately need to take notes. So let's imagine you're studying Othello, which is probably the most popular A-level Shakespeare text. You will look at different interpretations of the characters based on different film versions. Now, what's so useful there is that you will be able to spot where the director cut scenes out, and so you'll make some notes on why you think the director has cut that scene out. You will also get different interpretations of all the characters that will be played in different ways by the different actors and actresses, and you will make notes on your impressions. These impressions will just help you when you go back to read the text and decide, well, actually, which interpretation do I agree with and which ones do I definitely disagree with? Which ones offer more opportunities for me to think clearly about a character and which ones just don't fit my vision at all? So the videos there are super useful. A second advantage of the videos is that you can watch them with subtitles. And I think this will genuinely help with getting to know the language, so you can see the characters speaking at the same time as reading the dialogue. So you might re-watch key scenes, and it will genuinely help you get to grips with phrasing that feels alien to our 21st century ears. But the main bit of advice I'm going to give you is to visit these two exam board websites. Now, if you're doing a different exam board, obviously you want to go there. But the AQA and OCR websites are so amazing that I'm going to encourage you to use them to become an expert. Now, the interesting thing about reading through the examiner's reports is that we find out a lot of students taking A-level literature do so at a really basic level. So a lot of students don't even get to know the plot of the texts properly. And this signifies to me that they don't fully read the text themselves. Many students probably just do their revision straight from videos. That's not going to be you, because here you are in the summer wondering how to prepare. And it really is possible to become super expert in a text before you even start it in school. So I'm going to encourage you to find out what the first text is on your syllabus that your teacher will be teaching. And I'm going to ask you to become an expert on that, probably, I don't know, going at it an hour a day or so. And you'll see that you can become expert really quickly. So we'll start with AQA in Google search and then go to subjects, click on English, choose AS and A-level, and I'm going straight in at A-level English literature. There we go. And then you're going to start downloading stuff. Now, I'm not too interested in the specification at this stage. I'm interested in what we get if we scroll down. So AQA have done something marvellous here. They've offered you the resources that they give teachers to plan and to teach and to assess. Now, I haven't clicked on login at the top up here. I'm approaching this as a member of the public, just like you are, so anyone can access all this stuff. And you're going to think of YouTube as an opportunity to teach yourself. So you're going to go in first with the teaching resources. And let's go through some of these. So let's imagine I want to go in and read about tragedy. I click that open and it then gives me a whole new set of resources that I can open up and download. Now look how useful this is. You know, if you're studying King Lear, you can get a student response at band 5. If you're studying Othello, you can get a student's response at band 5. And on the other paper, you get these top responses. So I've opened up the Othello one at band 5. I can read it on screen, but actually I'd encourage you to download it as a PDF because you can print it off and then make notes about it. At the end of the PDF, you get the examiner commentary where the examiner explains why it's getting such great marks. And then you get further resources that you can click onto. The exam board also give you the text overview. Now this is a really short summary. I won't read it. I'll just scan through it. You can see this isn't particularly long. We're nearly at the end. But it tells you all the stuff that you need to know to understand that text. Well, it'll be quite easy for you to read that, make notes on it, and become a relative expert really quickly before you even start the course. And of course, the other thing this does, it tells you what the exam board is looking for. So none of this preparation is wasted. You know it's going to come up in the exam. Now, you might not be studying AQA. However, the chances of one of your texts or two of your texts or more being found on this page are quite high. You know, The Great Gatsby is probably the most commonly studied novel, and you'll get resources on that. Now, I'd also recommend downloading these exemplar student responses even on texts that you're not studying. The reason for that is, let's imagine you download the band 5 responses for each of the texts that are up here, even if you're not studying them. You will suddenly see when you read them together what it is that makes a good essay, you know, that doesn't depend on you knowing the text. And it'll be an advantage to you not to know the text because you'll be able to see the kinds of things the student does to get high marks, the kinds of sentences they use, the kinds of vocabulary, the kinds of paragraphing, how they structure an argument, how they build towards a conclusion, how they analyse two different interpretations at the same time and come to decide on which one's best. So you might not understand all that fully now, but if you read them and download them and make some brief notes on them now, you'll come back to them over the course of the year and you'll be much, much more skilled than the other students your teacher is teaching. So what you're doing over the summer here is preparing for your future self. And this is the self 12 months from now who wants to feel that they're already getting the top grades, so that year 13 is a breeze. And I genuinely think you can do the whole A-level this way, teaching yourself and getting far ahead of your class. Because when you go into class, if you've got a really good teacher, they'll be helping you explore interpretations through discussion. Now the problem is, you might find that other students don't know that much, and therefore the discussion isn't very productive for you, because they just don't have that scope and breadth of context and understanding and skill that you've developed. So you can learn quite slowly in a classroom despite having a really good teacher. However, if you've already done this groundwork and can then go back to it again during your studies, you'll find that you're just progressing much more quickly than the rest of the class. Okay, so you can open up all of those to get model answers that you're going to study from. The other strange thing I'm going to ask you to look at is the teaching plan. So you will probably find that AQA has written a plan of how your teachers could teach the whole A-level. And this will largely be ignored, is my prediction, by your A-level teacher, because they'll have preferred ways that they think work better. Now, I don't have a problem with that at all. But if you read through the learning activities and the differentiation and extension activities, there'll be things in there which you think, actually, I might learn something from doing that. You know, most of them you'll ignore, but as you scroll down, they go on forever, look. It's really easy just to read through and pick out the ones that you like and say, do you know, I'm going to try that one myself and become an expert again in my text. So I found these super helpful. And you never know, there might be some where you think, you know, I'm really going to ask my teacher, can we do that, miss? Can we do that, sir? Because I think this will really help our group. The other useful way you can use this is when you're making revision notes. So if you start with the learning objective, these are the objectives the exam board consider are essential to you being able to perform at top grade in the exam. So each bullet point will be something that the exam assesses in some way. So obviously you can make revision cards or other forms of notes on each bullet point. And then when you read across, so let's say I want to analyse Shakespeare play by applying knowledge of traditional dramatic tragedy or comedy structures, how will I do that? Well, the learning activity will give me an idea of how to do that, and so will the differentiation and extension. So suddenly I've got a real plan for my revision. Now normally students think they study the text first and do the revision afterwards. And I'm telling you the opposite. I'm saying, do the revision now. Start this expert analysis of one text yourself now. And you will genuinely make much quicker progress than you will in class. And anything that you couldn't do now over the summer holidays, you will do much more quickly when you get to class because you'll have so much other prior knowledge. Right, now we're going to do exactly the same thing with OCR. I'm going to go in via the qualifications route rather than the past papers. Then AS and A-level. And then scroll down to find English. We're going for English literature. So that'll be this one here. And I would say that the OCR website is probably even more mind-blowing than the AQA. So again, I can download the specification. I'm not going to do that now, but remembering I'm encouraging you to take all these resources and file them so that you can study them over the summer and during the year. So here I come down to planning and teaching and assessment. Let's look at the teaching resources. Well, there's a huge amount available there, and we're going to start with the teacher guides. Now look at this drop-down menu. It's quite significant. And these will teach you how to be an awesome student of literature. So let's imagine I want to see how to get the most from reading critical material. Okay, I open that up and it actually teaches me how I should go about learning these texts. So although this is written for a teacher, it's actually really useful for you because it tells you how the examiners think you can best learn. So there's a section on highlighting systems for your note-taking or annotation or symbols that you can use, or how to summarize paragraphs, or whether you should keep a reading journal, and so on. You will get so many ideas that spark for you here. You can reject loads of them, of course, but you'll get loads of ideas which you think, yes, that's what I'm going to do, and it's going to help me really succeed. Next, I've clicked on Teaching Activities. And here we go. We've got an introduction to women in literature. We can have that as a PowerPoint presentation, not too interested in that. But teacher instructions, how useful will that be? I can actually read what the examiners want the teachers to know. Right, it actually gives the teachers a script, and now I see the point of the PowerPoint. It goes with this. So this is a lesson that I can teach myself before I even get into class, which the exam board think is essential for students to gain the top marks. They've already planned that lesson, and you can get the teacher's script here. And so it does the same with close reading skills, with dystopian literature, exploring Shakespeare's language. That'll be relevant to all of you. Teacher instructions for exploring it. Let's have a look at that one. So we're going to learn about iambic pentameter and the effects of verse versus prose. We're going to look at dramatic impact. We're going to understand how Shakespeare's parts were rehearsed, the problems of modern editions. All the time you can see you're becoming more and more expert. The sort of registers that Shakespeare uses, these choices of language that different characters use according to their different social status. And look, you start looking at Shakespeare, but then you get into his contemporaries, so Christopher Marlowe, and a different famous play of the time, one that you've probably never heard of, so that you will suddenly get a much more profound sense of context. Well, let's just zoom down and see how many pages there are of this to teach you. An enormous amount, beautifully produced, and you will be able to teach yourself to become an expert. Then as we get further in, it gives us the actual notes that the examiners want the teachers to have. Again, these are your revision notes. You can chop them up, you can put them into a different format. And so each resource, as you can see, is a gem, and they keep going on. Look how many resources they are. This is literally mind-blowing. It means that you could actually teach yourself probably the whole course on your own and just go to school to embed the really advanced stuff. You know, you start quizzing your teacher on interpretations that the rest of your class have never thought of. Now, we can also click on schemes of work. You'd think, well, why would I do that? That's just for the teacher, isn't it? And then open up the one that's just for one A-level teacher, because it'll have everything on it. Right, again, we get these bullet points in this column, and this tells us the sorts of things that the examiners are confident will make us really good in the exam. We don't need to read everything though. We're going to look at the suggested teaching and learning activities because it gives us things to do. So, amazingly, watch Doctor Who Season 3, The Shakespeare Code. Well, I don't know what activity they'll have there. I'm sure it'll be fascinating. A recommended reading. Here's a second-hand book that I might want. The World of Shakespeare, Anna Claiborne and Rebecca Trees. I'm going to go on to Amazon or eBay and I'm going to try and get that second-hand straight away. I know that's going to help me. It also tells me which resources the examiners think are most useful. So I'm going to go and click on these dystopian ones here and these past paper ones here. They've twice referred me to the Little Book of Spelling, Punctuation and Grammar. Well, I'm going to click on that and see how much it costs. It looks like a PDF, doesn't it? Let's find out. Blimey, it's totally free. Here it is. It comes from OCR. You know, I'm going to print that off, aren't I? And look at that. It gives me, well, everything I could want to understand the spelling, punctuation and grammar that I'm going to need at A-level. How cool is that? It doesn't matter what exam board I'm doing, this is going to be useful. Now, we haven't even got into the delivery guides and the assessment. You can see that the resources here are an absolute goldmine. Thank you, OCR. So these are so well thought through. So if you're studying the Gothic, you can open that up. It gives you these 4 areas that are going to boost your learning. But even better than that, you'll find clickable material in here. So, you know, this is something I've got to learn. And then there's a clickable resource that I can go to that will take me deeper. If I go into assessment, I get candidate exemplars, so the answers that they've done. And this is possibly my favourite bit. So you get A-level responses done by candidates under exam conditions. So that's super useful. But sometimes you also get some written by the examiners because there was no exam at that stage. So comparative and contextual study, candidate style answers. But they're not by candidates, they're by examiners. Now what I love about that is that the examiners will always write like experts. So they'll train you to write like an expert. Obviously you won't be able to write this well yet, but you're at the beginning of your course. And even better, you get the real unpicking of why it's got top marks. Normally you can't do that when you read a text. You're not really sure why it's much better than another text. You can feel it, but you can't articulate it. But here, in a really detailed way, the examiners list the ways in which this meets the full criteria. So look, that's 12, 13, 14, 15, my God, 18 different things that they'll teach you about how to write a top essay. And of course, it doesn't matter if you've never studied the book that this is an essay about. You'll still learn so much by reading these and then reading the paragraphs they refer to understand what awesome essay writing is like. Now again, you won't master that now, but downloading it and keeping this to refer back to during the course of your studies means that you will be able to become a superb expert at the end of 12 months. And year 13 will just be a breeze. You won't even need year 13 if you've done this well. Now, the final thing I'd say about these websites is that if you spend the time going through them, you will probably know them better than your teachers. Because believe it or not, you know, if your teachers have been teaching A-level for a while, they'll be super confident in the content that they themselves have. And the lessons that they deliver. What they won't have thought through is how you could teach yourself. But the exam board, ironically, has thought how you could teach yourself. They haven't noticed that that's what they're doing because really they're teaching the teachers. But hell, why shouldn't you just be the teacher? Teach yourself. So I can't tell you how excited I am by these websites and the opportunities they offer you to become a real expert in one text. Yeah, that first one that you're going to study. It will obviously allow you to do it with all your texts, but do it this summer with just one text, and the confidence boost that you will get when you go into that classroom will be immense. And the way that you will develop other students in that class because of the quality of your insight will also have a profound effect, because learning is also sociable. Yeah, it's something that we like to do with other people. And by having this model of what successful learning looks like independently, you will transform other students in the class who will want to have your level of confidence and expertise. And I'd go a stage further. It's also going to inspire your teachers because, you know, there'll be lots of people in your class who aren't very good at literature and have taken it because they couldn't think of doing anything else. And it's very easy for a teacher to forget just how brilliant students can get if they apply themselves. And having someone like you in the class is going to ignite that spark in your teacher and get them to expect even more of everyone else in it. And this will be even more so if you're a student who, let's say, is expecting a 6 or a 7 at GCSE, because the progress that you will make over the summer will be immense, and you will rock up miles ahead of students who've got grade 8 and 9 because you'll just know so much more. Let me know how you get on. Of course, I've only scraped the surface of the OCR website, and there are other exam boards that you could also dip into and become a true expert on the text that you're going to study. If you have any better ways of using your time and you want to improve my teaching, even better, post me a comment. good luck with your summer, and I look forward to hearing how you did in August. See you soon on my channel.